You need to make a choice. In the race called life, stories are universal. To think, reflect, and act to know who wins the race. For you to ponder, fast and consistent will always beat the slow and steady. So change the strategy to start competing against a situation to 1 minute pre-think, to plan, prioritize, and also to deprioritize if that's not your goal. And that's so important in our life. Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. It's no secret, friends, you have a purpose and you have the highest potential. Dream it, believe it, achieve it. So dream big, truly believe in it, and achieve it 100% to live the life fullest. And I want to join hands with you on this mission to learn and grow together, to engage, enlighten, and empower. Yes, this is solo episode of your host Jyoti G on Stars of Learning podcast. Let's begin. Hello friends, how are you all doing? Welcome again to Stars of Learning podcast. By the way, wishing you a very happy Children's Day. Wondering why am I wishing you? Yes, there is a reason and connection to what I am talking today. Let's recall, even we were a child once, right? So go look out for that child inside you to celebrate this day with greatest joy. So friends, do you feel that children bring adventure into our lives and make us revisit our childhood every now and then? Yes, Nehruji says, children are like buds in a garden and should be carefully and lovingly nurtured, as they are the future of the nation and the citizens of tomorrow. Only through right education can a better order of society be built up. Yes, folks, it's a serious business. We should think about it. So, now to begin, just think, what do children like the most? And it's very, very special to them. Apart from toffees, toys, tantrums, love, care, attention, what is that one special thing they love? Yes, friends, they love bedtime stories. And every culture has abundance of stories to tell. And what I believe is stories are universal, conveying loads of meaning and purpose, and deepens the thought with the children. And I'm sure you will agree as we still connect to the stories, right? Yes, I'm here to share a story, not to put you to sleep, but to think, reflect, and act from a few of the stories I have lined up for you, friends. I repeat, it is to think, reflect, and act. So, I'm talking today about an interesting stuff called Who Wins the Race? And I'm sure you would have guessed what would be the story. Yes, it's a hare and a tortoise story. So don't switch off, okay? As you would have heard a old version of Hare and Tortoise story, and by the way, I have discovered few interesting versions of it when I was talking to my team and my learning partners. So here it is for you. You may be shrugging it off saying, "Hey Jyoti, we know it all," but friends, believe me, there is loads of twist in these stories, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this. So stay tuned. Firstly, why am I sharing stories? Yes, friends, stories play a vital role in the growth and development of children, and I believe it's applicable even to adults. Yeah, stories are memorable and it definitely takes us back to our childhood time, right? And again, I echo, we should not forget the child in ourselves, friends. So, let me jump on. Here you go with some versions of this story about the hare and the tortoise. I know you might have all known the first version of the story where hare and tortoise had an argument about who was fastest. And during the race, the hare thought that he would sit under a tree for some time and relax before continuing the race, seeing the tortoise is far, far behind, and assumed that even if he take a nap, this poor little tortoise cannot catch up with him. So later, Hare woke up to realize that he has lost the race. So, moral of the story of race 1 says, slow and steady wins the race. Yes, this is the version of the story that we have all grown up with. Now comes the twist. Let's come to the race too quickly. Obviously, the talented Hare was so disappointed at losing the race, and he did some soul searching and promised himself that he will keep running this time. And this time, the Hare went all out and ran without stopping from start to finish. He had to win, right? And the glory is he won by several miles, beating this tortoise. So, the moral from the race too, friends, the fast and the consistent will always beat the slow and steady. It's like two people you might have seen in the campus or joining the organization. One is actually doing a smarter move while the other is not that in the par. Yes, friends, if you are slow and reliable and your colleague or your friend in the campus is fast and still reliable at the job, which you both do, then remember that the fast and the reliable chap will consistently climb the ladder faster than the slow. So, friends, it's good to be slow and steady, but it's better to be fast and reliable. So, you need to make a choice to be fast and consistent. And moving on now to the race 3, which this beautiful tortoise and the hare had, as the story doesn't end, right? The tortoise did some thinking this time and realized that there is no way he can beat the hare in a race the way it was currently formatted. So he thought for a while, and introspected, and then challenged the hare to another race, but on a slightly different route. Okay, and then the hare agreed to it. The tortoise and the hare started off well on the bank, and in keeping with self-made commitment, the hare was consistently fast. It took off and ran at top speed until he came to a broad river. The finishing line was a couple of kilometers on the other side of the river, friends. So what happened? The hare sat there wondering what to do. How do I cross this river? In the meantime, the tortoise came along, got into the river, swam to the opposite bank, and he continued walking and finished the race. Yeah, so what's the moral of this story? The tortoise worked on his strength and he knew his competency and how to win this race. So true, friends. Time for you to think and reflect. First of all, we need to identify what is our core competency and then change the playing field to suit your core competency. For example, if you're still in campus, make sure you have a reach across within the campus, across within the different divisions, as well as external experts connect. And if you are an employee of an organization, and if you are a good speaker, or if you are good at analytics, make sure you create that kind of an opportunities to give presentation that enables the senior management to notice you. And believe me, guys, if your strength is analysis, make sure you do some sort of research, make a report and send it to upstairs, because working to your strengths will not only get you noticed but will also create opportunities for your growth and advancement. Is it getting interesting, friends? So last 2 more races for you to reflect. So the race 4, friends. The story has not ended. The tortoise and hare by this time has become pretty good friends, and they did some thinking together and both realized that the last race could have been run much better. So the tortoise and hare decided to run the race again, but to run as a team this time. So they started off, and this time the change is the hare carried the tortoise till the river bank. There, the tortoise took over and swam across with the hare on his back. And on the opposite bank again, the hare carried the tortoise and they reached the finishing line together. So, friends, both the tortoise and hare felt a greater sense of satisfaction when they played this race together. And they did it in a greater way with a greater time management and accomplishment. So, the learning here in the race 4, teamwork works, friends. With change of strategy and something different, you can definitely achieve your goal. So, the moral of the story, it's good to be individually brilliant, okay, and it should show off your strong core competencies. But unless you're able to work in a team, and it's the need of the hour, and harness each other's core competencies, you will always perform below par, because there will always be a situation at which you will do poorly and someone else does well. So, teamwork is mainly about situational leadership, letting the person with the relevant core competency for that situation to take a leadership power. Isn't getting interesting, friends? And now the last race. This stands out. I bet this would be a new one to you. So this race was again a little different, okay? There were some ground rules for them to play. So they had to keep 3 things to keep in mind for hare and the tortoise as part of this new age race, okay? So here the first one was both were given jetpacks with fuel that would carry them for half the journey of the track, okay. And the second one was they were given a lot of food and allowances during the journey of this race. And the third, they also invited to attend a lunch party which was planned in the mid of their journey track. So before they reach their goal, the party is at a location where whoever the first one reaches the party would be the guest of honor in this race. Is it interesting? So take a guess at a moment. Who will win this time? I'm sure some would say hare and some tortoise with previous references. In fact, even I was curious to know who would win this time with all these facilities and perks what they had during the race. So the race began. It was a mid-morning when the race started with a big bang. As usual, the hare immediately put on his jetpack and zoomed off again, saying, "I won't sleep off this time," he yelled to the tortoise, and the tortoise, as composed, smiled and continued at his slow pace. Halfway to the lunch party, Tortoise began munching calmly on the food they had provided. And Tortoise reached the location of the lunch party, which was organized by the organizer in the midway. And there he was told that the hare had been the guest of honor already because he was the first one to come there, and that he had left just short a while ago after a hearty lunch. So the tortoise said thank you for the update, and he met all the members at the lunch party, calmly refused the food he was offered as he already had the food which was provided by the organizers. So he left from there. He put on his jetpack and zoomed off. What did the tortoise get to see there? Still quite a far from the final line, he spotted the hare. The hare was totally exhausted with the heat. He was clutching his stomach because of the heavy food at the lunch party. He was sweating to the core and moving almost as slowly as the tortoise without the jetpack. Hey, and this time the tortoise did it again. The tortoise crossed the finishing line before the hare did, and These two best buddies got into the conversation after the race. So the hare was quite enraged, when he finally arrived at the finishing line, panting and clutching his chest, and he asked, "How did you do it? I did not stop this time, nor I slept anywhere. I was not even overconfident. I left immediately after the lunch was over." The hare wanted to know what happened. How did you make this difference? The tortoise says, "A 1 minute pre-think to plan and prioritize." So the tortoise patted the hare on the back, and this is the conversation of the tortoise and the hare, friends. So the tortoise says, "I took a minute to think after the rules and conditions of the race were announced. The jetpacks would take us halfway, and you used them from a head start. But I knew that post lunch we would feel heavy and tired with the food. Plus the sun and thus heat would be at its peak. Not a good time or a condition for us to walk or run like you saw. So I thus planned to use the jetpack and stayed light and ate the food which were given by the organizer and used the jetpack post lunch." So friends, it's time for us to pause and think, right? How many of us really do this when the task is assigned to us? You might be wondering, what about guest of honor opportunity which Hare had? Yes, Hare boasted about it and said with some satisfaction, saying to Tortoise that he missed out on being the guest of honor at the lunch party. Take a guess, what would Tortoise respond? He said that was not a priority for him. Winning the race was, and he deprioritized the lunch party. So friends, the last race moral: you can't use the resources available to you unthinkingly. You need to plan and prioritize to win the race. And sometimes being unplanned does work, but most of the times slow but planned ones will definitely win the race. So my final thoughts to wrap up. By the way, I also agree. How can we compare hare and the tortoise, who are so differently natured altogether? But I have used this analogy for you only to think, reflect, and act from the lessons learned from these race, friends. And few of my learning for you to ponder. Think about it. Neither the hare nor the tortoise gave up after failures. And that's so important in our life. The hare reflected on what went wrong and decided it will not repeat the mistake. So fast and consistent will always beat the slow and steady in the second race. Then what happened? The tortoise changed its strategy, right? And he tried something different to win the talented hare. Yes, competition is always there. And in the third race, it's important for us to work on our competencies throughout, as we live in the VUCA world now. And in the fourth race, the hare and the tortoise also learned another vital lessons, like when we stop competing against a rival and instead if we start competing against a situation, we perform far better, right? And the last race, having the patience and composed and that 1 minute pre-think in whatever we do to plan, prioritize, and also to deprioritize if that's not your goal. Yeah, those were my takeaways from these stories. I'm sure there will be many more versions, and I want you to think, reflect, and act on what was your learning, and would be happy to see your response and feedback in the comment box below from these many stories I have shared now. Again, with huge gratitude, friends, in the race called life, as adults, we get so busy that we lose our real identity. On the occasion of Children's Day, I am reminding you to find a child in you, to have a joyous day, and may each and every day of your life start with happiness and smile, just the way it started when you were a child. Wishing you all a joyful Children's Day, and also to all the lovely kids in the world. Thank you. So, friends, I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I'm always grateful for everyone who tunes in, listens, subscribes, and have left reviews of my podcast on iTunes. By the way, if you have not done that yet, that would mean a world to me. Head over iTunes, and I would be happy if you take a moment to rate and comment. If you got any value or learning listening to this podcast, do share this amazing information to help many others to engage, enlighten, and empower. Thank you once again for joining in, and I'm your host, Jyoti G, signing off from Stars of Learning podcast. Thank you.